Welcome, Solarah here. I hope you guys are doing well today. I just decided to show up and do another reading because I'm feeling like it. What do I want to say before I begin? First and foremost, I want to welcome you here. Welcome if you are visiting for the first time. Welcome if you... Ooh, it's 1844. I didn't even know that. It's 1844 on my clock as I begin this reading. It's really funny because the reading I began yesterday, the last video I did, I should say, after I finished recording it and uploaded it, it showed me that I began at 22:22. So 22 and 44 might be numbers of significance. 22 is a degree of Capricorn. Astrologically speaking, it's a master number. It's a master number that also speaks about the materialization of contracts, especially those with one another. 44, of course, is the number that speaks of the power of the Divine Mother and her protection and her presence, as well as angelic activations and angelic protection. It's also connected to the Emperor, so it's all about the setting of a foundation and being protected through the process of the setting of the new foundation. So those are the numbers that are speaking right now, but let me welcome you here. Welcome if you're visiting for the first time. If you were drawn in by the title, I invite you to chill out and see if you're connecting with me and my energy and my methodology and my approach to reading, sharing downloads, guiding, and all of that other stuff. You're welcome here. Welcome if you're returning. Thank you for rolling with me again. Welcome if you are visiting, if you've been rolling with me from the beginning or you've joined somewhere along the way. I appreciate your being here. Thank you for all the ways you support me, guys. Thank you for your likes, your shares, your comments, your subscribes. Thank you for your support over on my Substack. Thank you for your donations. Thank you for, to those of you who've already made purchases through my Ko-Fi shop of decrees and the manual. I do appreciate every way that you pour into me. I really do. So today, as I record this, it is Saturday, January the 27th, and I will likely post this on Sunday. And this morning I woke up and it just felt light. It felt lighter. And this is the second Saturday in a row that I felt this. And last Saturday, I know the sun was entering Aquarius at 0 degrees and there was a shift. Presently, the sun is at 7 degrees, which is like the degree of Libra, astrologically speaking, so it speaks of a balance happening. It's also connected to the Chariot, so it speaks of light language, maybe you're getting light language. It speaks of light body, because we're dealing with the Libran energy, and what we're going through right now. I would say it's light body balancing right now. So where you've been alchemizing things, it feels like there is something being established in terms of light body activations through the energy today. And as I record, the moon is at 29 degrees Leo. Okay, so we're at that closing degree of Leo. And Uranus has stationed to go direct. Okay, now what's really interesting about this, we're 2 days out of the most recent full moon, which was in Leo. The moon is closing out her cycle completely in the sign for this month. And as she does that, Uranus is stationing to go direct. And Uranus is stationing to go direct at 19 degrees Taurus. And 19 is a degree of Libra, again, just like the sun in Aquarius. It's a degree of Libra astrologically. But in the tarot, it's connected to the sun card, which is an energy of Leo. But it speaks of, as you are probably aware at this point, there are 2 cards of Leo in the major arcana. There is the Strength card and there is the Sun. And for me as a reader, I see the Strength card as being more of the issues we have to overcome in the Leo energy. And the Sun card is arriving at the destination that Leo energy wants to take us into. And when I say Leo energy, I'm not talking about Leo in your chart. I'm talking about how Leo helps us collectively to ascend. All the signs help us to ascend. Leo's job is to help us reconnect with our inner child, to help us heal those childhood wounds, to help us remember who we were before the Matrix taught us to forget, and to therefore reconnect us to our innocence, and to therefore be happy to shine being who we are. That's what the Leo energy does. So it's very interesting that Uranus is in Taurus at 19 degrees, because it feels like it's time to move forward, light body energy, you know, with the 7-degree mark also of the sun in Aquarius, the chariot that I was mentioning before, the light body balancing that's happening for us to move forward and in accordance with the truth of who and all that we are. And Uranus, of course, is a grand cheerleader, because Uranus is the planet that co-rules Aquarius. So it's the co-ruling planet of this new age. And Aquarius and Leo, of course, are sister signs. So Leo helps you to connect with your ability to to feel confident enough, again, to shine for yourself. And then Aquarius takes you out into the world and says, now shine and do what you came here to do with others. Okay, so the sister signs help one another to accomplish the same goal, also in a different way. So we have Uranus, which is the ruling planet, which is naturally connected to Aquarius, right, in Taurus. So what is the story we're connecting to right now as Uranus stations to go direct? Well, I would say that Uranus is helping us to come into alignment with the ability to be who we are within the collective, within the world, helping us to connect to our own innate beauty, helping us to reconnect to the ability to shine as we are and to take it out into the world without fear anymore. Okay, and then the things that the Libran energy that is expressing itself through the degrees of both the Sun and Uranus. The Libran energy is there to provide the balance for the structure the structures that need to be put into place for us to do that. And that will be internally as well as externally. Now, not for nothing, the Leo at 29 degrees, the moon, because this is where it is as I record, the 29 degree mark is an astrological degree of Leo, but a tarot energy of Libra. So we've got a lot of underpinning Libran and Leo energies at work to help us become balanced enough to shine. And Uranus is going to help to take us out there. When I was in meditation earlier, I heard it's time to win with ease. It's time to win with ease. It's time to win with ease. In other words, there have been so many stop-start energies, so many blocks put on our path in order for us to go within and find out all the ways we were doing that to self. And right now we're going through a grand awakening, but it's very internal in how we operate as electromagnetic beings. And in the sense of how we run our light bodies off of our emotional resonance, and how we can actually adjust ourselves into our own personal frequency by constantly coming back from our hearts, coming back into our heart space and living from that place. So we're not allowing our minds to take us into fear stories. We're always returning to the love story. And we're allowing our minds to come into agreement now with our hearts. Because in the Matrix, we were taught how to use our minds to overwrite our hearts. And then we were wondering why we couldn't connect and sustain the love story. And we couldn't connect to and sustain the love story because we kept running from it and overwriting it. This is the love story right here. The love story is in your heart space. It's always been in your heart space. And your love story is now returning to the earth. And as I said in yesterday's reading, that's not to do only with romance. Everything that you experience in this reality is supposed to be a love story. You're supposed to be in love with what you do, in love with where you live, in love with the people that you choose to make a part of your everyday existence. We're supposed to live in love, not visit love. We're not here to work 9 months of the year, or 10 and a half months of the year, or 11 months of the year, and have a few weeks every year of vacation where we visit love. You're supposed to live in love, because that's your fucking divine birthright, okay? So I heard the message. Uranus said, it's time to win with ease. And you win with ease because you're in alignment with the love story. You keep going back into your heart and adjusting your heart to overwrite the fear story that wants to create the block in your external reality. Because although we often think that the blocks that happen in our external reality are a result of other beings and situations, we can still get past those blocks internally because we're holographic beings creating our own reality. So everything that happens externally is just showing us something that we need to conquer within. And let me not say conquer, because that's very colonialist. It's something we need to overcome. We need to alchemize. We need to transmute. No, we need to come to peace with. There's an area within our own reality where we're waging war, where we need to come into peace and stabilize our field so that we go back into flow and things begin to open up for us again. I like that better. Okay, so I'm going into my Star Codes Astro Oracle, which was a gift from one of you beautiful souls. And let's see what Spirit has to speak to us today, especially in this energy of Uranus having gone, stationing to go direct. Oh, and then I just finished on a call with a client, and she was telling me how today was a number 9 day. So number 9 is a day of we're completing something. We're completing something through a 10-day circuit, and we are reaching a higher level of self-liberation if we have been moving in the energy of the love story, if we've been moving in love towards self especially. Okay, so, alrighty. I'm going to do a 4-card spread, so when I finish shuffling, I'm going to tell you guys how I do this, if you're new in these here parts. Okay, so I've shuffled. I'm going to fan the deck of cards in front of me face down, and I pick 4 cards, still keeping them face down in accordance with what I'm being drawn to. And when I'm done, then I will turn the cards. I will begin to turn the cards over. I just like to be transparent because I use a desktop computer, so I don't have a setup where I'm able to show the cards. Okay, so alrighty. At the bottom of the deck, ooh, look at this, we have Jupiter. We have Jupiter. Oh, and here's another thing that Uranus is speaking, because Uranus is expressing itself through the 19-degree mark of Taurus. Sorry, before I get into this, I just remembered. Uranus is expressing itself as it begins to station to go direct at the 19-degree mark of Taurus. So 19, like I said, is an astrological degree of Libra that is connected to the Leo energies in the tarot of the Sun card, right? But the minor arcana energy that represents the 19-degree mark of Taurus is the 6 of Pentacles. And we're in the final degree that the 6 of Pentacles represents, which means that there's some kind of grand balancing materially that has already occurred, okay? Or let me say this. There's some grand balancing that has occurred in order for something now to actually materialize on a firm foundation. And this is also very much to do with the systems that are about to start shifting because of the new age. The Taurus energy is all about getting your resources back. The Taurus energy are the gifts of the Divine Mother. They are the resources that you are endowed with as a divine being in order to live and to thrive beautifully. Okay, so that's what the Taurus energy is. It's your Taurus field, it's your biofield. That's why the Magician card expresses itself the way it does. It says everything you need is already within, because your ability to create your own world and create your own worlds internally is infinite. Okay, and we are relearning how to do that And we couldn't do it before because for one thing we didn't know, and for another thing we didn't have access to all our resources. So this Uranus stationing to go direct in Taurus at the 19-degree mark shows me that something has been alchemized materially for us to begin to create the world as it always should have been, in accordance with our true, innate, intrinsic value as living, sentient beings. Now, the Matrix tried to treat us like we were robots or like we were homunculi, as I spoke about in yesterday's reading, like we were persons, right? Because there's a difference between a person and a human. I think that's what it is. It's a language of legality that they use to trap us into being able to be under the thumb of an external master instead of being able to be God over self. So, in our giving up of our identity as divine beings through the Matrix ploys and tactics that had us giving up control over ourselves at every turn unconsciously, in doing that we opened up our fields for our resources to constantly be ransacked. And this occurred through the systems and the systemic ways that we were programmed into certain traditions that just became life, even though it didn't feel right. And so those systems and traditions didn't give a fuck about you. They didn't give a fuck about me. All they cared about was money and control. And that's the truth, okay? Bottom line. And it feels like there's a shift that's coming to occur materially in a lot of these systems because they have no fucking choice. Okay, so of course we're in a year where we're dealing with a split that is on the cusp of occurring, where the two worlds that have been brewing and mingling together, co-mingling together, are about to shift because of dimensional differences based upon the work we've been doing and our ability to connect with higher frequencies. We are ever moving higher and therefore creating more of the polar energy that we need in order to break off from the dystopian reality that they're trying to build through the systems that they're continuing through Matrix 2.0. But the systems that we're going forward with are going to be shifting into alignment with the Age of Aquarius humanitarian principles. Okay, and I don't know the logistics of how all of this is going to happen. It's not my area yet. It might be later on, but I haven't been given like messages of the strategies and all of that. I don't know that yet. I just know that it's happening. Okay, so at the bottom of the deck we have Jupiter, abundance. Okay, so Jupiter is the planet that with Saturn is over law and order. Hold on one second, let me see where Jupiter is right now. Jupiter is at 6 degrees Taurus. So Jupiter is at 6 degrees Taurus. So only Jupiter and Uranus are hanging out in Taurus right now. Yeah. So Jupiter is at 6 degrees Taurus. That's a degree of Virgo, astrologically speaking. And it is the Lovers. It's re-entry into the garden. It's organization through liberation in order to re-enter. It's almost like what they're showing me right now is, you know how when you arrive in a country and you've got to go through immigration? That's kind of what I'm seeing. I'm seeing like the immigration process occur, energetically speaking, that organizes the entry point. Yes. Okay, let's see what's coming out. How did I know Saturn was going to come out? Saturn is here. Saturn has been speaking so loudly to me through this the past few days. Saturn speaks to me a lot through the number 7 because that is the number, that is connected to the Saturnian energy. Saturn is, like I said, Saturn and Jupiter work together in order to maintain order. Now, Saturn is, as far as I'm concerned, it's the planet that will always be pushing you into your greatness, whether you like it or not. And the only time Saturn beats that ass is when we want to live in energies that are way below who we are, or if we're trying to drag other beings into states that, you know, are way below who they are and their value too. And the truth of the matter is we only do that when we're not living from our value also. So it always comes back to our own personal story. Saturn comes to whip us into shape so we connect to our greatness, to our divine truth, and we start living it. And when we start to do that, when we come into alignment with the greatness of who we are, then the rewards of Jupiter become unlocked to us. Because here's the thing, we don't live in a punitive universe. We don't live in a universe where you get judged for doing something good or bad. You are constantly judging yourself based upon what you're choosing to do. Okay, so if you're choosing to align with stories, energies that are way below your value, you're bringing on the judgment that feels bad and it's suffering, because that's the judgment you need to get you back on track. But it's not a judgment against you for being bad. It just means you're out of bounds. And the universe likes to maintain cosmic balance. And here's the thing, when you are in balance, in simpatico with the universe, because you are living in accordance with who you are and who you came here to be and your greatness, you get all of the protection and the resources that are afforded you because you have access again. And this is what it feels like is coming back into alignment. Some kind of access that we've lost because we were so far out of alignment. Now, don't get me wrong, the being out of alignment wasn't necessarily our fault, because that was the whole structure in the system of the matrix. But it feels like things are coming into order in order to help us to do the internal work, where we're aligning with our true love story. Our love story is always going to be connected to our greatness and a reflection of our greatness, in order for us to unlock greater protections, greater resources. It's almost like Taurus helps you to connect to your resources through the Divine Mother, and Jupiter is almost like the storage energy. And I don't want it to be too 3D because it's so much bigger than that, but I do still want to help you to understand kind of how it works. Okay, so Jupiter is like our ability to connect with the storehouse and begin to live in accordance with our value, and to have the resources that we need in order to do that back again, because we're in alignment, and because we therefore are no longer opening our fields for other beings to take from us. So this whole battle has always been a battle of internal alignment, but we could only get to this place of being one-to-one with self once we removed all the extra players. And the extra players are all the karmic stories we've had to overcome, with things being exposed about what was happening to us, because we needed to see that externally to see internally where the aberrations were in our own, the schisms were within ourselves and in our own energy field, based upon the fuckery of the matrix, if that makes sense. So in the challenge position, we have Cancer. Immerse. So Cancer energy speaks of the bedrock upon which our emotional resonance has been founded. So remember I said in the beginning that we learned in the matrix how to overwrite our own hearts, overwrite the love story with what we called logic, but was really mental programming to constantly put us back into fear states, so we go against ourselves, we go against the love story. Okay, I spoke about this last night, like this whole twin flame quote unquote scenario is a perfect example of that. The the reason why divine partners can't come together or couldn't come together was because beings would not tune into the love story. They wouldn't tune into the now. We kept going back and forth with the fear stories. We kept convincing ourselves that something wasn't real, that something couldn't happen. And we both, divine masculines and divine feminines did that. And every time we did that, it took the frequency of the love that we felt, it lowered it, and therefore completely clouded the connection. Because in order for us to reach the things that are ours divinely, the way we access that is through living divinely, living in accordance with who we are in the universe, living as part of the vine. This is how we access it. And every time we begin to live below our value and we begin to believe stories that are fear-based and therefore not our truth, is the moment we begin to fall in frequency. And certain things that you want as a divine being can only be unlocked through a certain frequency, and then you must maintain that frequency in order to sustain whatever it is you've opened yourself up to. Okay, so one second. I had something and it left. Okay, so because we didn't know how to maintain our own emotional bandwidth in the higher frequency that was necessary for us to unlock the divine love we had with a counterpart and sustain it, we kept on going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the way we were going back and forth in frequency within, internally, through our own emotions, going back and forth, feeling intensely but believing a lie, feeling intensely but believing the lie instead and falling. Okay? The reason why the back and forth runner-chaser thing was only reflecting back to us what we were doing inside. So I hope that makes sense. I got into this more in the video from last night. But in order to maintain a divine love, you must be living in your divine frequency and you must sustain it. In other words, we can't be constantly succumbing to the fear stories that want to take us under, because every time we do, then we lose the frequency we need in order to connect. Okay? So what they're showing me right now is, like I've said to you guys in the past, that you are full of gates. We are a gateway. We are full of gates because we connect to different gates. It's a gateway system. Okay, so when you get to a certain frequency, a divine frequency that connects with something that opens a gate into another reality, you must sustain the frequency to walk all the way through the gate. Otherwise, you lose contact. I hope that makes sense. So a lot of the time we lose contact to the timelines that occur through that doorway or through that gate because we've dropped in frequency and therefore we've lost access. Everything is about frequency. Everything that you think gives you access materially when you're a divine being is based upon frequency, if you're going to get it divinely. Now, there are ways that you can fuck around with energy and get things that aren't meant for you, and that's the matrix, but that requires a lot of the time stealing of other people's resources, stealing of other people's frequencies in order to do that. And that's what we all were taught to do to varying degrees. There are some people who were doing it very consciously, but all of us were kind of programmed into that because we were programmed out of the ability to sustain our own energy off of self alone. We are supposed to be completely energetically, not just sovereign beings, energetically sovereign beings, meaning that we need nothing outside of self when we are living in divine order. And the reason that's important is because when you need nothing outside of yourself, then you can truly love unconditionally. In the Matrix, there was a lot of so-called loving, and there were strings attached. I'll love you for as long as you do this for me, or as long as you make me feel good, right? But the fact of the matter is, everything that we tried to outsource were things that we should have just been doing for self anyway. Because when we become independent, then we have the power to truly be interdependent without trying to play these games where we're trying to get things from other beings, in order to build self, or we're trying to get things from other beings because we don't know how to do it for self, if that makes sense. So the only way to truly unconditionally love another is if you are energetically sovereign. Okay, so we can do our best to love unconditionally by constantly checking our motives, absolutely. But the fact of the matter is, if you are back in divine alignment and you are energetically sovereign in the first place, it removes a lot of that having to constantly check yourself, because that's not how it was supposed to be. Because your motives as a divine being, for the most part, are pure. It's the constant pulling you down into fear frequencies and survival mode that gets you to move away from that purity. And that was intentional. Okay, so in the challenge position, this Cancerian energy has been coming up a lot this week. And that's because, like I said, Cancer energy is the bedrock and the foundation for our emotional resonance. Cancer controls our personal energetic grid lines as well as the grid lines we lock onto this earth plane. Okay? And in that, whatever energy is the predominant one that is running through us collectively is going to create the collective story, because it's feeding the grids, which is why they wanted us constantly going into the fear stories and even pushing us purposely into trauma, so we'd stay at these levels of fear, right? In order to feed the grids that fear, in order to keep us at a low enough frequency so they could feed off of us, because they can't climb high with us. They can't. They forfeited their right to do that, and so they're vampires. They need to continually feed, and we're good feeding sources. You know, when our fields are open, when we don't know who we are, when all of our divine resources are open, because we've forgotten who we are and we're living below our value, living in a way lower frequency than we should be as divine beings. So the Cancer in the challenging position means that we are being called to really be very aware of all of the ways we get sideswept back into fear narratives and fear stories, instead of going back into the heart and aligning with the love story. Okay, so the minute something good happens, if we are not already seeing it, experiencing it, and feeling it, we begin to let our minds run away with stories that don't align with what it was that we were feeling. And we need to learn to sit with the beauty of what it was that our hearts showed us. And when our minds want to cause us to defer or defect, we need to bring ourselves back under submission to love, which is greater than fear. Love is greater than fear. So the more we are able to do that, the more we are able to recognize all of the ways that we allow ourselves to be dragged down into these lower frequencies through what it is we're thinking, but not just thinking, what it is we're then allowing ourselves to believe, the stories we're allowing ourselves to believe around those thoughts, which are going to be very intimately and intricately connected with our emotional foundations, meaning that the reason why so many of us fall from this place of love is because we've had so many traumatic experiences where when we've put our hope into certain things, we've been dashed. But here's the thing, we put our hope in the wrong thing because we felt something, but we didn't know how to sustain the frequency to keep it going higher, so it crashed. It crashed back into fear, and fear states always create trauma and splitting when they're sustained. Hope I'm making sense tonight. So it's really important that we learn how, 1919 on my clock, it's really important that we learn how to connect with the root of the fear story so that we can actually see how we've been programmed against ourselves. So when something good is about to happen, or something is about to happen that has the potential to be good or bad, which story are you aligning with? Are you aligning with, oh my gosh, I'm sure this is going to happen because it has in the past, and yada, yada, yada? Or are you creating a new story, and every time you want to fall into that thinking, the catastrophizing thinking, pulling yourself back to the new story you're creating as author and finisher of your own faith and walk? You have the ability, every single time you fall into that fearful narrative, to switch the direction and come back to love. You've always had that ability, but you didn't realize it, and you didn't realize the power of it. We didn't realize the power of it, and we didn't realize that we had to constantly be pulling ourselves back because of how well we've been programmed into the fear state, only because the experiences we've had have always mirrored that back to us. But they've always mirrored that back to us because we weren't aware of how our light bodies worked, and we weren't aware that this is a frequency game, and we weren't aware that at every turn we have the ability to raise and sustain our frequency based upon what we choose to believe, and therefore what we choose to invest our emotional energy into. Emotional energy is pretty much neutral. It's it's what you decide to direct. It's the emotion you choose to give it charge. Emotional energy itself is neutral until you give it the charge based upon what you're choosing to feel. So, in other words, when you're put in a situation where there are two possibilities for something to happen, one could be, a repeat of what's happened in the past, but then you also have timelines that exist of something beautiful. The more you catastrophize and fear and push that, you're pushing the charge of emotional energy to recreate the very timeline that you don't want to repeat. But if you switch course and you purposely tune into the feeling of what it is that you want, and the feeling of what it is when you have accomplished it, or even just who you are, when you refocus that into the love story, you begin to collapse the old timeline and create a brand new one. Okay? And right now, I know that sounds like a lot of work, but right now we're being supported. So I don't want you to think every time you have a fearful, you begin to tune into the fear that you're doomed. You're not. You're not. We're having a lot of help right now as we learn how to recalibrate and fine-tune ourselves. Every time we're going through a grand transition, and we're entering a new level that we haven't on this earth in a really long time, our guides actually, for as long as we're in divine alignment, our guides will actually show up stronger to help us get to the next level. And when we learn how to then ride the bike, and we're more confident riding at that level, then our guides will pull back. So right now, and I spoke about this in the word for your week last week, right now, a lot of us have our guides are, you might have a change of guard, you might have more guides stepping in, you might have some guides coming in and other ones leaving. Either way, whatever support you need right now, for as long as you're in divine alignment, to learn how to master this again, that's the help you're going to get. Okay, so we have a lot of guides, a lot of divine protection right now. And maybe that's why the 4-4 was coming up, because Your guides want you to succeed. The earth, the Divine Mother, the Divine Father, they want us to succeed. They always have. So for as long as the intention and the motivation of our hearts is matching with that, we're covered. This is where grace comes in. Okay, so what's interesting about this Jupiter card also, it's the number 23 card in this deck, and 23 is a degree of Aquarius. 11 and 23 are the degrees of Aquarius. Okay, so hence the reason why 1111 is the call of the light worker. It's really funny because I was moon gazing yesterday and I saw a ring around the moon, and I'm just very drawn to Jupiter sitting in this thing that looks like there's two rings around it. And of course we know Saturn is the most famous planet in our solar system, where we see that ring effect. I don't know what, outside of the pointing towards Saturn as a personal message last night, and the moon and Saturn together has been coming in a lot for me for the past couple of days, in terms of this shift that's occurring. And I was just listening to another reader earlier on today, and she said something similar about the moon and Saturn. So the only thing I can think about with this moon and Saturn connection is that Saturn is putting back into order the things that were taken from us through lunar manipulation and fuckery, and the moon is collaborating to assist Saturn in this also, is what I've been tuning into. Because you've got to remember that the planets were also fucked with, all of them. All of the matrix was created off of the exploitation of planetary magic. Okay, so this is why I've never bought the whole, like, the moon is, like, evil. I don't think it's evil. I think it's been used for evil purposes, but I don't think the moon in and of itself is evil. A planet doesn't have the ability to be evil. It's what we choose to do. And again, the moon's not a planet. And even if it was created for a purpose, it doesn't make it evil. It's the intention of what people or beings do with that energy. So in other words, the moon is just, if it works like a satellite, it works like a satellite. That's what it was created to do. Now, if it was then chosen to direct that energy to harvest, that's what was chosen by these beings. But when I tune into the moon, and the moon's been showing me since 2022 that she has entered into the New Earth contracts also, and was exposing these things to us. Okay, so I don't want to get too deep into that conversation. We're all entitled completely to believe what we want to believe, but I'm just sharing with you that's how I've experienced it. So I'm not here to say that anything anyone else is thinking or feeling is wrong. I'm just saying this is my experience. It's all. So it's interesting because having said that, with the Cancer in the challenge position, of course Cancer is ruled by the moon, and the moon is also very much connected to the grid lines of the earth. Okay, so when you think about the moon, as the moon moves into its fullness, it pulls the waters of the earth, it pulls the waters in more onto the earth, right? So the tides will be higher. The tides will come in more. The tidal shifts begin to change because the moon is a pulling device. It pulls the waters, but it pulls the waters in accordance with the grids, which is why it does the same thing to us, which is why on the full moon a lot of the things that have been hidden deep within our subconscious, we're able to connect with it more and pull it out more. It's not just because the moon is full and it's illumination. That's one thing, but it's literally because the moon operates on a grid. It runs the grids of the earth. It pulls at the grids of the earth through the water energies, and it pulls at the grids of us through the water energies, which is how and why they were able to harvest off of our trauma. Okay? So, the challenge position, this is all about rewriting our love story, rewriting our emotional story to connect now with our divine resonance and what we came here to sustain the grids with versus what we've been used to do. And that's going to be all about how we are able to connect, keep pulling ourselves back into the love story, keep pulling ourselves back into the heart space, keep pulling ourselves away from the programmed mind responses. And I was listening to someone like a week ago, and they said, they were saying on there, it was a YouTube video, I believe, and they were saying that everything that we think with the mind, we think because it's already happened. The mind does not have the ability to tap into like future events. That's the work of the soul. The mind doesn't. So what the mind will constantly bring up for you is every time you enter into an energy that's familiar, the mind will bring up the story that has already occurred. And you have the choice at that point to realize, wait a minute, the mind doesn't have the ability to write a new story. It just has the ability to keep on connecting me to the old one. But I also have the ability to take my mind and use it to help me begin to write a new story. And sorry, the mind does have the ability to help you write a new story. It doesn't have the ability to help you birth one. And it doesn't have the ability to write the new story for you. It has to be a conscientious approach on your part. So we've been taught to be very lazy with our minds. We have, because we've been taught to learn information and regurgitate it. We were programmed into this. It's not laziness. We were programmed into not being, not realizing how our minds work. We were programmed completely out of our reality, and we were programmed just to use a certain part of our mind for a certain reason, and that part has become very strong. And what we're doing now is we're learning how to build a new muscle, because we've been out of balance with how we've been using our minds. Okay, so it's like people who go to the gym and only focus on one muscle all the time and never hit any other muscles. You will create a muscle imbalance, right? So it's the same thing. We've created a mental imbalance by constantly using our minds a certain way. And now it's time to expand our minds to begin to create our new stories. And as we expand, this is the Jupiter energy that's bringing us into the ability to expand too. As we expand, what we're also doing is allowing that junk DNA to be reactivated, because the reason it was not activated before is because we weren't using the capacity of the energy necessary to bring it online. Yes. Jupiter is a planet that helps you to begin to live as who you are divinely on the earth planes. Because Jupiter helps you to walk in your own personal philosophies. It's connected to Sagittarius and Pisces. It helps you to walk in your own personal philosophies that are designed to continually liberate you higher. Jupiter helps you to connect with that. And this is how and why it provides you with the resources and the ability to travel and all these other things, because this is what is needed for you to go higher. Okay, so Jupiter helps us to go higher. So this is a beautiful energy to come out, and it works with Saturn. So for as long as you're in alignment and you're in agreement with Saturn, 1933 on my clock, as long as you're in alignment with Saturn in the sense that you're believing you're great, and you're walking in the alignment of your greatness, then you unlock these beautiful Jupiter rewards that are here to help you to go further. Saturn's just waiting for us to wake the fuck up and be like, oh my gosh, that's who I am? That's what I have access to? I've been sleeping on myself all this time? That's what Saturn is here to help us do in its ascended state. And every energy has polarity. So in its descended or shadow energy, it's here to lock you down and to keep you out of that too. Because Saturn energy does that also. Because the whole point is to get you back to your greatness. And sometimes you need to lock people out of certain things so they don't go. Like, with a baby or a toddler who's just beginning to walk. You know how you got to put up those gates? Right? So that they don't go into a room that's dangerous for them, or they don't go downstairs. That's what the Saturn energy of restriction is designed to do in its ascended state. But you can use it against yourself, and other beings can use it against you to actually put you in a whole fucking prison. And that's what they did in the Matrix. Because remember, the Matrix used the planets to do fucked up malefic shit based upon the powers that the planets have. So Saturn has the power to restrict and imprison, but it was never designed divinely to restrict and imprison you out of your freedom. But if you sign on and say, okay, like the Matrix had us all doing, then you are the one allowing yourself deeper into the cage. But the Saturn restriction and the gate has always just been there to be like a safety guard until it's no longer needed. If that makes sense. Okay, so what we need to be focusing on, what we're not seeing. Interesting, ninth house. This is the house that is ruled by Jupiter and Sagittarius. So the ninth house is all about, and I was saying today was a number 9 day that the client I had just pointed that out to me. Ninth house is all about our ability to walk in our freedom. So the houses 1 through 6 are really very much about how you begin to formulate who you are energetically. When you get to houses 7 through 12, it's all about how you begin to, through Libra, come into balance. Through Scorpio, you begin to alchemize yourself further through those, through the situations in Libra where you begin to not only come into balance with yourself, but you also come into balance with yourself through the introduction of other energies that are oftentimes intimate relationships, right? And then through those relationships is where you are, it's iron sharpening iron, and you learn how to alchemize farther your emotional body into greater power through Scorpio. And then you're ready to begin to walk that out in the world. So all of the signs, Aries to Scorpio, are all from the head down to the hips and the nether regions. And when you get to Sagittarius, the energy, Sagittarius rules the thighs. So now it's time to walk it out. So the ninth house is a house where that's established, and you begin to have what it is you need in order to walk it out. So far in this ascension, a lot of us have been going through the energy of recovering who we are, learning how to even begin to manage our own personal resources. So we are tuning into relationships and situations where we're not taking too much and we're not giving too much. So we're learning how to come back into balance so that we can truly be energetically sovereign. Okay? And the ninth house, the Sagittarius energy, something's being established right now in order for you, for me, for us to begin to walk the walk. In other words, the time of being in the hermit mode, learning self, going through the serious alchemy that we had to learn about our pitfalls with other beings, that's over. And now what's being established through the ninth house is our ability to go out into the world and to be who we are. And this is important to know, because if this is occurring right now, it means that the restrictions energetically that have stopped us from doing that, we've alchemized them internally. And so we're about to start seeing the material shifts that open the door. Okay? Oh, the guidance is conjunction. alliance. This is funny. This is the card that actually came through for the word for your week last week. On Sunday when I did it, it was in the same place of guidance. So we're still in this alliance energy. Okay, so this is about coming back on board with self at every turn. At every turn choosing, again, at every turn choosing what aligns you with love, what aligns you with the love story, what brings you back into the love story, what takes you out of the story that fear wants you building and bringing you back into that central place of love, going back to your heart. And this is how you deal with yourself and your thoughts as they come up, and even how you deal with people one-to-one, because we all do this. Like I've had a few of these experiences this week where somebody has reacted towards me in a way that because of where I've been, I've been like, I'll cut you off in a second, because don't nobody got time for that no more, because that's what we had to be. It was all about protecting our energy. But now it's about really learning how to diffuse the fear story that someone else is also wanting to introduce into the situation, by bringing the energy back to love in how you respond. And not everyone is worthy of that, and this is up to you to play around. Some people deserve the cutoff, okay? But we're all human. And when we're able to connect with the love story, then we're able to see another soul. We're able to see what it is that they're going through that would elicit their reaction. And again, some people, you need to give them the cutoff still. You're going to have to use the discernment. There are some people right now who are so lost in their own war against self, and all they want to do is come and try to get you to save them, or to take your life force, or to try to tear you down so they feel better about themselves. All of those games are still happening. So use it with discernment. But at the same time, we're also learning how to open ourselves up again more. And to realize and to learn that we're safe to do that again, because now we know who we are, and we're also learning again how to be open with one another without fear, because it's fear that closes us off. And fear is there to protect us and to tell us when something is dangerous. But we were living in a time where, because of ascension and what was happening, everything seemed to become dangerous. And now it's like it's time to remove those barriers that have locked us in fear and have therefore kept a lot of things out of our path. Because it's the fear that keeps on producing the stop-start motion. It's the fear that keeps on putting up the blocks. Okay, so it's time to learn how to dance with love and eliminate the unnecessary inorganic fear and all of its programs. Okay? So, I think I'm going to get a dragon card for you, and then I'm going to be done. This is beautiful. So we have the black dragon coming out, cocoons you so that your divine potential grows. Meditate, reflect, undergo a metamorphosis. So I love this energy because it's kind of confirming what it is I said about something here before, and that is that this also reminds me of the card in the Isis Oracle. It's the card of, I can see it right now. Why can't I think of the name of the symbol? It's like the red knot. It's the knot of Isis, right? And when you are going through a shift in frequency where you need to go higher, and there are things within you that have to collapse that are so deeply programmed into your reality, you will be given extra protection so you can make the errors you need to make that are going to help you to rise without you being afraid that it's going to be like karmic. The karmic energies that we've dealt with They occur because we kept on doing the same thing and not learning the lesson. We kept on failing the test. When you're learning something new, you're not going to be tested straight away. This is not what this is about. This is about learning, relearning who you are and how to move in these energies. And in that, there's so much fucking grace. So the black dragon here is speaking about that, how you're cocooned. You're cocooned and you are protected, and how to utilize 1944, how to utilize this time to really get to know yourself through meditation. And when I say meditation, I'm talking about that every time you want to dip into the fear story, catching yourself and seeing your propensity to go there, and instead taking a moment to reflect and to tune back into the love story, tune back into your heart. Okay, so this is like showing me you have protection for when you go into the fear story, but you also have the protection in the sense that you have beings and guides that are helping you at every turn to come back. Okay? And at the bottom we have the golden orange dragon. Expands your light for ascension, be a peaceful warrior, help those in need, remember your magnificence. So this is about the being open again, and it's about the fine-tuning of the solar plexus, the sacral chakra too also, but the solar plexus especially. We've been getting a lot of solar plexus tuning energies happening through this full moon in Leo, and it will continue to occur right through, I want to say, to the full moon in Libra, okay, where this is going to be the solar plexus adjustments that are occurring in order that we bring our emotional fields back into balance with our mental fields, because our solar plexus is what carries the emotional history. Your solar plexus carries your personal emotional history. Your root chakra carries a lot of your family emotional history and the history of the land, right? Especially the emotional energy. But it's your solar plexus that carries your individual emotional story, and indeed the ones that have played out across lifetimes that have been re-triggered in this lifetime through your emotional exchanges. Okay, so the solar plexus is really important to tune and get back into balance, because it's the seat of your divine will. It's the seat of your ability to take who you are divinely and to live it in integrity, because you're not fighting yourself with your mind. And so the solar plexus, remember I said that you have all of these stories of things that have occurred, and anytime you go back into an energy that is similar, the first thing that's going to come up are those stories, right? Because your mind can't create a new story without you being the author. All it can do is take you back to an old story, and then it's up to you whether you're going to repeat it by putting the energy into it. All of those stories are stored in your solar plexus as emotional energy. Okay, so this is why when something happens that feels very familiar and you've had a lot of fear around it, even if it isn't the same thing, you'll feel it in your solar plexus. You'll feel that like dropping feeling. You'll feel that like that fear. It's constriction. Fear constricts. It's your energy going in. Right? So this is about the assistance that is happening here, and what we have to do in order to maximize the potential of what is occurring right now is to make sure that at every turn we're bringing ourselves back into our hearts, and we are connecting with the love story and all of its beautiful possibilities, because all those timelines exist, but they're activated only by our ability to create that reality, by aligning our minds with that energy also. Your heart has already shown you the way. Your heart has already connected with the energy that it wants. And so it's time for you to use your mind, time for us to use our mind to write the story that's in alignment with our heart's truth, instead of regurgitating an old story and creating the same cycle or another cycle that's kind of similar, because we're dilly-dallying in energies. But again, there's a lot of grace. A lot of grace. And this is what these cards are showing. Okay? Remember your magnificence. Do not align with stories that do not align with your magnificence. This is where Saturn this is what Saturn doesn't like us to do. Saturn wants you to align with stories that match your greatness. Okay? So make sure that you are doing that, and this is going to be smooth for you. Okay? And it's not about perfection, it's about intention. And you should know that you're being supported. You're being supported by the planets. You're being supported by the solar energies. You're being supported by the lunar energies. You're being supported by star family and constellations and meteorites. You're being supported by the dragons of the grid lines and the seraphim of the source lines. You're being supported right now. So all you have to do is come into support of self. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. I'm sending you guys so much love, because as I end this recording, my other video is premiering, so I'm going to go and tune in and see what you guys are up to. For all information on how to work with me, I invite you to check out my website, solarah.info. If you would like to give towards this channel, Solarah Rises, or just towards my work, my mission, my craft, or just say thank you. Monetarily, you can do so through my Ko-Fi or my PayPal. Those links will be in the description box below. If you would like to join me over on Substack, the link for that will also be in the description box below. And I believe that's it. Oh, and the link to my Ko-Fi shop, if you would like to purchase my decrees or my sacred bathing manual, that's where you're going to find them. So those are all the announcements. I thank you again for being here at this time. Please continue to support yourself. Okay, it's really important right now. Support yourself and what it is you need to feel good and in alignment, because this has always been about you. It's not about what anyone else is doing or what anybody else says if it's not in alignment with your truth. Okay, so I will see you again soon. Take care.